everyone. My name is Adam Williams, and you are watching or listening to another episode of Retail Redeveloped. Now, if you are watching, you're probably asking yourself, why the hell is Adam Williams wearing sunglasses on a podcast inside? Makes no sense. But let me tell you why I'm wearing sunglasses. It's because I'm wearing Johnny Fly sunglasses. Accidentally just kind of ran into this brand when I was over in Noda. They have a really cool brick and mortar store over there. Went in, loved the style, tried on the glasses, loved the fit and just the vibe even more. So I reached out to Johnny Freeman, who's the owner and founder of Johnny Fly Co. It was founded in 2011 with just a small handful of designs, and he's really grown the brand. I see people rocking them all over town, and even more than that, if you stop somebody and ask them when they're wearing them, they just start gushing. It's like a cult following. Johnny Freeman, thank you so much for joining me today. Please just tell everybody a little bit about who you are and how you decided to start a sunglass company on your own, and just walk us through kind of your journey to how you got here.
And for sure, it's been a wild, it's been, what, almost 9 years now, officially. So it's been an adventure. It was I'm a Charlotte native. I was born and raised here. So it was a excuse me, but I started out kind of just messing around on my dining room table. I was one of those guys. If I saw something I really wanted that I couldn't find, I'm gonna make it myself. And it began kind of as a journey of, hey, I want this type of product and that product, and why not just try and make it, and maybe someone else will like it too, and throw it online. At the time I was specializing in social media marketing, which was this unheard of thing that you did on Facebook sometimes, 9 years ago. And I felt like at that time there was just an area where you could reach a really big audience using organic methods. So that's kind of what kicked me. It was like, I need to work on a product that I am passionate about. And to be honest, it was a lot of products when we all started. I made hats, hoodies. I prototyped shoes and jeans, and you dream it. Phone cases. Like I was doing it all. I was doing a bunch of stuff, and eyewear was one of them. And eyewear was the one I cared the most about. But I spent about 20% of my time on what made 80% of the money. So when someone smarter than me finally sat down and said, hey, don't be good at a lot of stuff, be great at something. And that was what I wanted to be great at. And eyewear it speaks to me, in a special way. It doesn't matter what you're wearing or how you're feeling about your day. A good pair of sunglasses make you walk out of the door feeling like a badass, or whatever it may be. I feel like that's one product to me growing up and through my life always evoked some emotion, as far as, accessory goes. And especially us as men, we only have so many types of accessories to really stand out or be different, or be unique. And sunglasses and eyeglasses were always that for me growing up. So we kind of evolved off of the dining room table. The stuff we were screwing together, we used to buy a bunch of defunct parts and get the wood arms carved and screw them all together and take them to the trophy shop and put our name on them. We did that probably for the first, almost 1,000 pairs. It was my roommate at the time who was doing his MCATs, who's now a doctor, and my new girlfriend at the time, who thought I was crazy, but she's now my wife and mother of my daughter. So my entire life's journey started with Johnny Fly, and it's so strange of how it all has kind of turned over the years, and learning manufacturing and international trade and selling over. We opened a warehouse in Amsterdam about 5 years ago to manage our EU trade, and things that I never would have dreamed keeping me up at night.
So walk me through the journey a little bit in a little bit more detail. So
Mm-hmm.
you start making. You're obviously a maker, right? A creator. That's
Yep.
something that comes across when you start talking about it. That is a passion of yours. Was this something that you always, like when you were a kid, were you the kid with every single Lego set that had to put everything together, or like when do you think this maker creator kind of vein started to present itself?
I was always an auto guy. So I built cars my whole life. So I was always building cars or doing something with cars. My family, grew up in, that's a automotive industry's always been where they were working. And so I was always a car guy. I raced cars out of high school, tried took a run at doing that professionally. Yeah, I could.
So you were tinkering with cars. Obviously, if you're into a race car, you know that every single part gets touched on that thing in between races. So I'm sure you're very comfortable tinkering and messing with things until they're just right. Kind of test, retest, kind of mentality that is what you do in the pits. Um, so that led to what?
Yeah, I mean, it was I wanted some glasses with wood on them. I really just thought it'd be cool to get some wooden sunglasses. And it kind of led me into a really deep learning process about the history of the industry, what kind of materials are being used in all types of different all types of different glasses. We started out, I was buying some like defunct front plastic pieces that were already made, and they were plastic. And we were getting a wood arm cut from a wood manufacturer that kind of cut to the shape we wanted, and then we were marrying those two with like a really terrible hinge style situation. But it was cool. It was novelty, I want to say. But and we had a decent polarized lens. That led, okay, how do we make this better? What's the next step? Especially once we started getting the volume, to try to find at least a few manufacturers to help some of the part of the process, to alleviate my dining room table a little bit. So we were researching a lot of things, and I guess one of the early things that we started finding a way to use a better wood and cleaner wood and that type of stuff. And then we came up with spring hinge. That was huge. And as you know, with your pair, spring hinge is what really just hugs and makes them comfortable. And not a lot of consumer grade sunglass really utilize that technology. You normally find it in higher end optical prescription glasses. So that was kind of a really unique thing. What happened once I did that, it gave so much give in the hinge where you normally break your frames. It was creating so much pressure on the plastic up front. And so I said, well, what's better than plastic? Like, I was naive and got into the really diving deep. And that's where we kind of discovered acetate. And not only its durability and its weight and hyperallergenic and all these kind of crazy things, but it was super sustainable. There's no petroleum involved like plastic. So we were like, this is really the way. We always were trying to figure out how to do a little more eco and nature, and that was the game changer there. So we started with some smaller acetate manufacturers that would sell us sheets and let us cut them into our shapes, because we weren't big enough to talk to the big guys. And over the years it's evolved, and now we work with an Italian manufacturer that that makes what I consider the best acetate in the world, and some of the most unique patterns and colors. But there's videos out there. It's really cool to see how acetate's made, and something we're trying to work on our own video to really utilize how cool that is.
Yeah, I would love to see that. I'd love to see that. So you decide that sunglasses might be your secret sauce, and you purposely or accidentally get into an industry that has probably the most daunting competitor that you could ever imagine. Like I don't know if everybody knows this, but there's one company that makes what 95% of all sunglasses.
80% something percent of the eyewear market's dominated.
Tell people who this company is and why they're such a behemoth. And then I want to get into what made you think that you could come in and kind of take a piece of that pie.
For sure, and I don't know the exact numbers of their market share, because there's a couple there. There's Luxottica, who's the big guy, and there's a couple other big ones that are.
But they own everything, like every brand that you can think of. They pretty much own, right?
Yeah, or at least have controlling interest of. So I mean, it was and there's stories out there. You can go read about how they took down Oakley just to gobble them back up and things like that. But yeah, they own like LensCrafters, Pearl
Ray-Ban.
Vision, and the Sunglass Hut and all the brands within it. So it's Ray-Ban, Oakley, a good percentage of Maui from what I understand. But and then they own the licenses for all your big like brand, fashion brands that have sunglasses. So. And a lot of times it's wild. If you start traveling, you'll see like a Ray-Ban frame with a Prada tag on it if you go to a different country, because they just make them and slap the names, and it's
right.
Wild. But for me, the biggest, I didn't really realize what I was getting into when I got into it. I was like, and I love sunglasses. I owned a lot of Ray-Bans, Oakleys, Pradas, Carreras, I owned a lot of different glasses over the years, and I was like, these are all still plastic. These also have these terrible door hinges, they're stop hinges. I was like, there's nothing innovative about it in 60 years. I mean, nothing's changed. They're still doing injection molded plastic, and in some cases putting two screws on the arms in New Jersey to call them American made, which, is a fraud too. So there's so many elements to the industry. I was like, man, it's got to be a better way, a way to do this differently. But I didn't know how. And I think in some ways, how naive I was actually helped me out, because had I known the elephant I was trying to consume at this point, I may have scared off. I don't know, but we learned a piece at a time. And I got slapped and shut down because we've come to find out sunglasses are medical devices, and you have to hold an FDA license for any sunglass or eyeglass or whatever. And that license costs me the same that it costs Luxottica. From what I understand. I mean, I won't quote that, but I mean, it is exorbitant amount of money. I was working out of my guest room and my garage at the time, and I've got government agencies that I've got to now fork over tens of thousands of dollars to, and I'm like, because all my stuff's frozen, and at that point everything I had was in the product I had made just to get out, and then they're going to freeze all that, so I got to double or triple down just to continue the process. And
so how'd you get through it? I mean, that's a story that every good founder story has, that kind of pendulum point where it's like, I ain't gonna make it. I was listening to the founding story of FedEx on I believe it was Business Wars the other day, which is a phenomenal podcast if you haven't checked it out. And the owner of FedEx literally flew to Las Vegas with his last either $3,000 or $5,000 because he had a 20 some odd $1,000 fuel bill due on Monday. Literally won the money he needed to keep his planes in the air in Vegas, and that was the tipping point where if they didn't pay the fuel bill, they were done. So walk me through your version.
That's awesome.
of FedEx. Like how did you keep going? Because that's such an easy. You're struggling. You're like nothing is going quite right yet. You're making no money, and then you get hit with something that might sink the ship. Tell me how you kept going.
That was an interesting moment. I believe, if I'm remembering right, I was still doing a lot of Johnny Fly between 6 at night and 2 in the morning, because I still had my pretty much full-time job that I'd started to take pull back a little bit from, but it was I think everything I had in other places, including house and money, and borrowing from family, doing it. We were very lucky. I had a lot of great family support through this early process, or through that middle process. But it was there was a lot to it. The Vegas story is funny. That was how I got my startup money, though. But it came out of Vegas.
Nice.
Vegas,
just helping out entrepreneurs. Those nice altruistic people out in Vegas are just trying to help everybody out.
That's right. But the story is, the whole story is a Vegas idea, because it is about gambling. I mean, you gotta gamble, but gamble on yourself. Make sure the odds are in your favor, or at least you feel like they are, because they're in your control. But I'm trying to remember exactly what all we had to pull and shake to make that time happen. But I just remember being a stressful time, and it's like, is this thing going to be more than a hobby? And if it is, once you decide to go in, you got to go in and go big. And that's what I always say. You got to build a bigger house than you're ready to live in, so you can grow into it. And that was how I've always treated Johnny Fly. So we would, build bigger infrastructure, or bigger technology than we actually needed for how small we were.
Let's dig into that. Walk me through. So you start on your dining room table. First time you showed a pair of sunglasses to a buddy, and they were like, "Hey, I'd spend $150 on that." That must have been a good feeling. Walk me through how you transition from that day to the day that you realized that you might be able to quit your full-time job and make Johnny Fly your full-time gig. Like walk me through that process, and then take me current day, start from a production standpoint, from a distribution standpoint. Walk me through that process.
Yeah, that man, I guess when it came time to go full time, that was the earliest, kind of situation. That was gosh, it's been, I guess, 7 years now. So I asked to go part-time, and I was very fortunate. They allowed me to kind of go part-time to start chasing this thing. I really looked hard at my bank and my bank account. I was like, okay, I'm gonna stockpile as much. I was lucky, other than I had this kind of new girlfriend, but I was single at the time, and I was working all night on this crazy business. So I wasn't out partying or spit blowing all my money, getting a bottle service or anything that everyone else my age was doing at the time. And I was making a reasonable money over there. So I was saving everything I had to say, okay, how do I find a way to buy myself 9 months to really run this thing hard, so I can wake up and do this from 7 in the morning to 2 in the morning, whatever I want to do, and start just driving around the East Coast, showing them to retailers, trying to get people to pick me up and things like that. And that was, I finally did the math. I was like, I feel like I can survive this. I'm a worst case person. I always like to plan for the worst option. So if I don't sell another pair from here, can I eat ramen for 9 months? Yes.
Right.
Let's go. So that was kind of the move we made and I made and jumped out, and that literally, it turned everything around. I remember almost the first week I landed Touch of Modern, which is one of those apps you buy cool gadgets. They reached out to me out of nowhere about our leather bags, and we picked up a Touch of Modern deal, and they wanted me to make more bags than I had ever even sold at that point because of that. So and then it was literally because I had time to focus and answer the emails and really dive in and dig. Design got better. It allowed me time to source and try to make our eyewear better. And it's always, every step of the process is about making it better. And it eventually took over, 2 guest rooms, and then the bonus room, and the garage was full, and they were dropping pallets in my driveway. My neighbors thought we were crazy. It would be wild. We'd have 10 cars in the driveway because I'd have everybody, up in the floors upstairs packing orders as quick as they could. And we built a luge system to roll our boxes down from upstairs down to the front door for FedEx to come get them.
That's awesome.
It kind of became wild, and we had a lot of different things going in different directions. And during that time, we opened up a Holland. We were shipping to Europe crazy. It was almost 60% of our market was not in the U.S. At the time, I thought, man, I must just be a fashion icon because all these forward-thinking people really love my sunglasses. Now looking back and being mature as I am, or not being more mature, but the dollar was in the gutter, the euro was way up, our products were 30-40% cheaper, and American products were just flying overseas, which then I had to learn every single different import problem from every country had a different method. Like Germany, you have to put on every pair of sunglasses, do not look directly in the sun, in 6 languages. I think you should get that, but that's fine. So we learned it was really difficult, but we were shipping so much over there. And I met a guy named Martin and he lives right outside of Amsterdam. He does distribution. He has his own like startup brand in a completely different niche, but he owned a pair of glasses. He's like, hey, can I just help you do this? So we started a partnership. 5 years ago or maybe more, and it's kind of grown into he basically is doing a lot of the distribution through the EU for me. So we do one big import right into Holland and then let it trickle from there. And during that time, then we decided, I guess we got married, and she's like, this has got to get out of the house. I need a home. Literally we're sleeping in sunglass arms and lenses everywhere. And, and I couldn't turn off, there was no turn off for me because I could walk in the other room and start designing a new one, or turn my laser on and start lasering a new, designer product, or, everything was there. So we found I had a family friend that let us rent the front part of his little warehouse unit. It was like 1,500 square feet. And I was like, we'll never need all this. Like, it was so much room. I had a pretty office. I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do in this thing. But I think it kind of gave me a little bit of pressure because I'd never had overhead like that. And it wasn't very much, I laugh at it now. It wasn't very much overhead, but it was, at the time I was like, man, we got to support overhead. And I have one, part-time guy who worked with me 3 or 4 times a week, who's now still with me. But I said, let's do this. So as soon as we got in there, I felt like we grew to the walls. We instantly got better distribution. We started really doing well in wholesale. We've got featured in some publications and magazines and a few overseas, and that really just kind of drove it all up. And you tell me I'm rambling, but I'm trying to give you the progression.
No, it's wonderful. So walk me through So you start at zero, right? You start at dining room table. How many pairs are you selling now? Like how big is the swing gone, and how many countries do you think you're in now?
I mean, we have shipped to 89 countries since inception. So
89 countries.
yeah,
From
so
the dining room table to your sunglasses being worn literally all over the planet.
yeah, I think before we left my house, we had hit 76 countries. My wife made me a nice pin poster to start pinning where we were shipping them,
Yep.
because it was getting really cool with some of these random places they were going. I give a lot of credit. There's a site called The Fancy back then, and it's still around, but it's not what it was. And it would just feature really cool, unique, interesting products, and it was a very internationally followed site. So I think that's what really got us seen early on, by all these random areas and places. But once you kind of get a good pair, I mean, sunglasses are one of those things where you wear and people ask you about them, because they're wood, they're interesting looking, something's different. So saturation with sunglasses is so unique. So we'll see, we'll ship something to a little, random town in the middle of Idaho, and you'll see that little kind of ink blot start growing, month to month. Sometimes faster, sometimes slower, but it's really cool, saturation wise, because sunglasses, you pretty much gonna wear them every day, unlike a shirt or shoes, that you change up.
So what does the future look like? You're kind of an interesting hybrid, right? You've got the wholesale model. You're sitting in your retail store, which is right in the middle of Noda, guys. Next time you're in Noda, drop in and check it out. You'll almost certainly walk out with a pair of sunglasses. Um, what so you've got brick and mortar, you've got wholesale, you're distributing all over the country, you're selling on Etsy. Like, where do you think what do you think the future looks like? Because if you look at your closest kind of comp set, it'd have to be like Warby Parker, right? Like
Certainly.
they took the model of you'll never be able to sell direct to consumer. They flipped it upside down, and they created this huge online presence. But if you continue to watch their growth everywhere, they had their analytics, they knew which zip codes they were selling a ton in. But then when they would open a brick and mortar, the halo effect would take over and the sales would just go through the roof everywhere that they would drop a brick and mortar store.
Absolutely.
So I'm curious to hear, like, what is your strategy look like now that you've had the liberty and the advantage of watching somebody else kind of do what you're doing. Your styles are way cooler than Warby
Like,
Parker. I mean, it's very cool, but they're selling to everybody. You've got
yeah.
a certain niche that you're trying to do. So what do you think the future looks like?
And that was, brick and mortar was always a dream. I didn't think we could make it. We had that warehouse, and somebody said, they had an opening in Birkdale Village up there in Cornelius, and they said, hey, you can have 45 days, test it out. And I was like, oh, this will be my time to finally do this brick and mortar thing I've always wanted to try. And we tested that, and it was, wildly successful. Once the pop up was over, people were banging on our warehouse, and that ultimately led us to find this Noda store. So the answer kind of, it is a mix. We've always existed online. Online's a big part of our DNA. The store, once we opened the store, I guess, over the past 2 years, the store makes up for 40% of what we do, or this store and our pop-up stores,
Wow.
which is wild. It really made me look and change, my thought on, okay, how do we need to look at this brick and mortar situation, and how can it survive, elsewhere. Uh, I'd say if you asked me this a year ago, I'm telling you, we're opening more of these things. We're gonna, get another permanent one here in Charlotte, and we're gonna try to run test stores. I love doing 45-day stores and a great shopping area, where we can get a good feel for what the market looks like. Because if you're ever around Charlotte, you'll see our big box truck running around with the giant pair of sunglasses on the side of it. That we do. Last year we did 70 something pop-up days all around the East Coast, and that did. When I say we did 40% of what we did 40% of our business here in this store and that truck. That truck
Right.
did about half of what this store did.
That's
So
unbelievable.
it's wild, and it's just about getting out and letting people see the brand and getting to know it. So if you asked me last year, I'd say we're opening a lot more of these. COVID really slowed a lot of that down. The retail look was going to be different. I still think it's going to change. My personal feeling is it is the move to make. It's just kind of getting our feet back under us,
Well,
to
but you're
be
lucky to
ready to.
have that. You're lucky to have that truck to continue to kind of dip your toe in the water without jumping into a 10-year lease with 2 5-year options and personal
Yeah.
guarantees and all the fun stuff that we like to require
Oh
of
yeah.
smaller brands as they get rolling.
Oh yeah, no, I agree. And we opened a satellite store up in Lake Norman. Kind of had and that's now rocking and doing well. So we're ready to get our feet wet and get this under us. Ready to get through kind of this weird time. It's not as much about do I feel like the brick and mortar is going to work. It's just a weird time now, staffing wise, and doing all that to survive through this. The tail end of this 2020.
So a couple things. You've already been really
Yep,
generous with your time, but before I let you go, let people know where they can find you, both online and brick and mortar, and where they can connect with you online, social,
definitely.
website, all that. Let people know how they can connect with you, and then I'd love for you as kind of a parting shot to let people know the best piece of advice or the hardest lesson as you were trying to put this together against crazy odds, total lack of experience, like all of that. I'd love for you to let people know how they can find you, and then let people know kind of the hardest lesson or what you think was the most important lesson that you learned as you were taking this journey.
Yeah. So you can find us, johnnyfly.com, our store here in Noda, as well as Lake Norman. If you want to do a
Where's
store
the
look,
store in Lake Norman?
it's right by, it's in Cornelius, right by the peninsula there, by the Harris Teeter
Awesome.
up there. It's a satellite store. It's great. Go check it out. Just opened. But we also, at Johnny Fly Co. on any social media, platforms, all that good stuff. So we're kind of everywhere. But yeah, come see us. Check us out there. I'd say my one bit of advice, or not advice even, but what I really learned through all this was, revel in failures. There's more than enough. I've had so many people around me that trying to do similar kind of things that they hit that first road bump and get real scared. I think just study your failures, enjoy your failures. I know it's cliche, and a lot of people say it that way, but that to me is still the biggest thing. I think through all those things I did wrong or didn't work all the time. I mean, you learn so much, and that's something uh, that you can never take away from me. So uh, yeah, enjoy failure because it's part of success.
Well, Johnny, I just want to take a second and acknowledge you for coming on the podcast and sharing your experience, your struggles, your triumphs with us. I just love so much talking to makers that are willing to put their ass on the line to come out and do something that they're passionate about. And just really want to take a second and say thank you and keep it up. Like I tell you, I'm gonna tell one quick story. I had a pair of Johnny Flies that were getting a little long in the tooth. I came in just randomly to say like, "Hey, can you tighten these things up?" And the level of service and the level of commitment and passion that came across when you guys were trying to get my glasses tuned up and making sure that they were still looking great and lasting a long time was exceptional. And that kind of
Thank you.
stuff gets lost um, in the margins a lot of time, and it didn't with you guys. And I just want to take a second and let everybody know that this is a great brand and something that certainly charlatans and anybody that loves cool looking sunglasses should go and support. So Johnny, keep it up, keep rocking and
Thank you.
rolling, and really appreciate you taking time out of your day to come and share your story with us.
Anytime. Appreciate you having me. Enjoyed it.